Hello and welcome back to Vintage Disney here on Brian's Things That Are Cool. It seems like a lot of the movies that I've covered this year on Vintage Disney have been based on real-life stories. I like these type of pictures from Disney because it allows you to learn things that you may not have known before. 10 Who Dared from 1960 may not be up there with the greats, but I think it's worth a look. 10 Who Dared was released on November 1st, 1960, and was based on Major John Wesley Powell's own journal, documenting the troubles he and 9 other boatmen faced while exploring the Colorado River for the first time in 1869. Unfortunately, 10 Who Dared promises more excitement than it actually gives. The film being as flat and rather boring as it is especially interesting given not only its storyline, but the men working on it. Lawrence Edward Watkin, who of course gave us Spin and Marty as well as numerous Disney classics, adapted John Wesley Powell's journal into the screenplay. And William Bodine, also from Spin and Marty, directed the picture. The movie has a pretty solid cast of veterans of the Western genre, including James Drury, L.Q. Jones, and Ben Johnson, and even a few Disney regulars like Brian Keith from The Parent Trap, making his Disney debut in 10 Who Dared, and even Marty Markham himself, David Stollery. In fact, this was David Stollery's last film, leaving Hollywood shortly after, eventually making his mark designing automobiles. While a number of scenes were shot in a studio, the majority of the film was shot in location in Utah, Big Bend of the Colorado River, and the Grand Canyon. With help of a man familiar with location filming, James Algar, who wrote and directed Walt Disney's True Life Adventure series, winning Oscars for The Living Desert from 1953 and The Vanishing Prairie from 1954. 10 Who Dared had an exciting story, a strong cast, and all of the technical elements in place to make a really great picture. So let's see how it just didn't quite come together. 10 Who Dared opens on May 24th, 1869, where we meet John Wesley Powell, a former major for the Union during the Civil War. Powell, played by John Beal, has put together a team of 9 other men to explore and chart the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon. By the end of the Civil War, America had been pretty well explored, but there were still a number of areas that were uncharted, one of these being the Colorado River. Historically, Powell had explored similar areas to collect specimens along the Colorado, and his 1868 team were the first white men to climb Long Peaks Mountain. It's on this day that the team is set to cast off that the movie introduces us to the characters, in a rather clunky way. The exhibition has gotten a lot of interest in the press, and as a device to learn all the names and backgrounds, we have a reporter on the shore asking them about themselves in a sequence that goes on far too long, and would have been handled better through dialogue. As the script was adapted directly from Powell's journal, the names and stories of each member of the team are historically accurate, though they don't always get enough of their backstories explained. W.R. Hawkins, for instance, played by L.Q. Jones, gives his name as Missouri and is clearly hiding a shady past, but we never really find out what that is. Powell only having one arm isn't really explained either. Historically, Powell had lost his arm during the Battle of Shiloh. Being set directly after the Civil War, the theme of loss during the war is more fully explored with the character of Powell's brother Walter, played by James Drury. In real life, Walter was captured during the war and put in a POW camp by Confederates. So placing Walter in a boat with a former Confederate, played by Ben Johnson, was probably not the best move by Powell. It leads to a big brawl between the two men that gets another teammate, Bill Dunn, played by Brian Keith, involved. When filming the fight sequence, the water was freezing. If the current hadn't been moving, it would have been frozen. James Drury, Brian Keith, and Ben Thompson were originally fitted with wetsuits under their costumes, but as James Drury said in a 2010 interview, they look like the Pillsbury Doughboy. They decided to ditch the wetsuits and jump in the freezing water in their period costumes, but not before finishing off a bottle of brandy before having to jump back into the water. The water was so cold, James Drury said that none of them even felt the effects of the brandy. Later, the Confederate goes off to hunt for food, but Walter goes after him with intent of killing him. Doesn't work out too well for Walter, who falls off a cliff, but is rescued by the Confederate. Walter, surprised that his enemy saved his life, asks why, and the Confederate simply replies, "The war is over." This is enough for the two of them to become best friends, and they return to camp.
Did we just become best friends? Yup!
As the expedition continues, several geological landmarks are pointed out, with as much excitement as watching your parents' vacation videos. This is made especially hard for the viewer because despite having access to these beautiful locations to film in, the filmmakers opted for long shots of the actual scenery mixed with close-ups of the actors sitting in front of rear projection backgrounds. The hardships of the long journey are felt by the crew, as well as the audience, and some of them decide they've had enough. One member of the team leaves early on with a scout and his Native American squaw, while Brian Keith's crew decide it might be safer to travel on land, but end up getting killed by Native Americans. One member of this ill-fated crew is played by R.G. Armstrong, who would appear in another Disney production years later when he was the villainous prune face in Dick Tracy.
I'm taking this bum out of the headlines. I'm rubbing him out.
You killed Tracy. They point the finger at me. This bum.
The remaining men and Powell complete their trip, and as the music swells, we get a shot of a plaque honoring Major John Wesley Powell at the Grand Canyon. Disney and Walt's era and beyond have taken lesser-known stories from our history and crafted amazing films. When done well, Disney can add fictional elements to historical figures and create endearing characters in their own right. They can even take an obscure story from one of the worst wars and make a family-friendly comedy that did moderately well with audiences. While I wouldn't go as hard as Leonard Moulton did calling the film rock-bottom Disney, Ten Who Dared does not do that. The crew are a little too Disney-fied in how they're portrayed, and John Beale, playing Major John Wesley Powell, lacks the adventurous spirit needed for his character. The magic of Disney's true story American adventure movies is that what they lack in historical accuracy, they make up for in their ability to capture the imagination, making you want to learn all you can about Francis Marion, Davy Crockett, or Elphego Baca. Part of the issue may be that the script is based off of one man's journal, so some things aren't explained well, and there's little room to add excitement or even a little bit of comedy. We do get a couple of songs from Stan Jones, the man behind Ghost Riders in the Sky, who performs two songs in the film, Seven Jolly Rovers,
We are 9 jolly rovers, rovers, rovers. But Tim McGee drew a gun on me, and now we're only 8, and now we're over 8.
and Roll Along.
Sons and many daughters, hear our mother softly calling.
We also get a cute puppy who can do tricks.
No? None of that now. I hadn't met you when I made that rule.
The film itself is a bit slow. There were a number of times where it felt like it was going to get exciting, only to have it slow down again. If you're interested in the idea of the American adventure and the pioneer days, this isn't a bad film to check out, but I'd probably put it low on the to-watch list. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my look at 10 Who Dared. If you'd like to be kept up to date as to when I release a new video, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And if you really want to be notified, hit that bell as well. I'm Brian, and I'll see you next time on Vintage Disney.